Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Into the Unknown. Today's episode, we're diving into the story of Kenny Montgomery. You guys probably seen a lot of series about it. We see a lot of movies and stuff. You probably see a lot more in the future, but we're going to dive into the story about Kenny Montgomery. I believe I titled this video Sweet or Sour because it's kind of like that, put on what side you choose and who you think is right in the end of the story. So, hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys are ready for it. Without further ado, let's step into the unknown.
Try once, please, pretty baby, 'cause I just can't tell no lie. Because I just can't tell no lie. I swear you know I just can't tell you no lie.
Kenny Montgomery, born in Lucas, Texas, November 15, 1949. Kenny spent most of her childhood moving, base to base, since her father was in the Army. At the age of 18, Kenny Montgomery, who was Candy Wheeler at the time, would meet a man named Pat Montgomery, who she would grow to love and get married to. The couple had two children in 1973 and 1974, named Jenny and Ian, and the family would go on to build a home in Wiley, Texas, which they live. Candy's story is a little different, of course, from the other stories. Most of the stories we dive into of individuals be serial killers. She's not a serial killer, of course, but her story had a cool upbringing. Then she met her husband, had a family and stuff, of course, as well. They built a home as well. So you think that everything is, I won't say perfect, of course. Nothing is ever perfect, but you think everything is good and cool, of course. But I guess Candy had different intentions, which we're going to dive into next. Even though Candy's life was stable and good, she felt like she was missing that excitement in her marriage. Candy often conversated with her friends about having an affair to excite her life. One day she was playing at the church volleyball game and she bumped into a man named Alan, which would start everything up. Here's a quick brief, of course, on Alan and Betty. They was married in 1970. They had two kids as well, but Betty did suffer from postpartum, had depression and stuff as well, and that kind of affected their marriage. In the old days, they never really cared about mental health and all that type of stuff, of course. Her husband got frustrated with her and stuff as well, and he was like having affairs with other people at first a little bit, but about to have another affair, which was going to be the crazy, fatal affair, how it kind of ends a little bit. But Betty also wanted to try to save their marriage like that, so she wanted to have another kid, which every therapist will tell you probably. Having another baby will not save your marriage or save your relationship. That's a story for another time, but you guys get the gist. But yeah, and it's gonna lead to this crazy little thing happening between, of course, Alan and Candy, which we're gonna dive into now. After the two bumped into each other, they would build up interest and attraction to one another, which led to an affair which began in December 12th, 1978. The affair had a list of rules written by Candy for the affair. The two would meet up at a motel weekly and would follow these rules. The planned out affair was going well for a while for the two, but as time passed, Alan's guilt grew. Candy, on the other hand, was loving it, and it became almost like a routine for her weekly. It was times the two said they wanted to call it quits, but they just couldn't do it until spring of 1980. I wanted to go to the Como Motel, but they demolished it. I think a few months ago. It was like 20 or 30 minutes away from here. They demolished it a little bit. So I wasn't able to go there as well, but I was able to go to the home, of course, on the outside. Someone is living there, but you get some footage of that later in this little video right here. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. They had the rules set and everything kind of set. of like how the affair is gonna go, everything planned, where they'll meet up. And it was kind of like a little twisted a little bit, and Candy loved it because it was like kind of almost like in her control a little bit with something different and crazy, which did lead to something crazy, which we dive more into as this story continues. In 1980, in the spring, Alan told Candy he didn't want to see her anymore after him and Betty reconnected in a marriage encounter. Candy often said she couldn't live without him, but she agreed and decided she wouldn't try to reach him anymore. On June 13, 1980, Candy stopped by Betty's home to get Alyssa, Betty's daughter, swimsuit for swim class since she was spending the night at Candy's house with Candy's daughter. And this is where the tragedy happened. Hey guys, I'm on my way to the house, Betty Gore house, on where it happened. I can't go inside the house because I think it's off the market. They had it at first where you can, like, probably people probably going in there and trying to, see stuff. But we're on our way there. We should be pulling up in a little bit, and I'm gonna give you guys a little footage of that. According to the court testimony in 1980, Candy arrived at Betty's and asked if Alyssa could go with them to the movie and stay overnight. Candy said she would take Alyssa to her swimming lesson the next morning. Betty agreed, and the pair made small talk for a few minutes before Betty asked Candy if she was having an affair with Alan. Candy said she had, but it was a long time ago. Betty then was said to walk into the utility room of her home and return with a 3-foot axe in her hand. Candy said she would leave, and Betty put the axe down. Candy placed her hand on her friend's arm and said, "I am so sorry." Betty then grabbed the axe and started yelling, "You can't have him. You can't have him. I've got to kill you," while pushing her into the laundry room. The two women struggled for the axe, and Betty hit Candy with a glancing blow on the side of her head. As blood began to roll down her face, Candy grabbed the axe and swung it in self-defense, hitting Betty on the back of the head. Candy delivered 41 brutal blows to Betty's body that day. According to the medical examiner, 40 of those blows were delivered while Betty's heart was still bleeding. Candy attempted to tidy herself and the scene, but there was too much blood. She left Betty mutilated and lifeless on the floor, and baby Bethany asleep in her crib. Hey guys, we're pulling up to the house a little bit. I believe it's this right. I don't want to do it down here. Yeah, this right here is the home. Yeah, where it happened. So yeah, guys, that's the home right there. I believe somebody living there, right? It's kind of crazy. Somebody living in there. So yeah, they probably said, "What they doing driving by my house like this?" But yeah, that's the home right there. I wouldn't live in there. If a murder happened in the home, I wouldn't be living in there. But that's the home right there. I believe the motel got demolished, so I won't be able to go to there like that. But that's the home right there where it happened. That like, it was built like in the 70s, I think, like that too. And the crime and stuff happened and stuff as well. So yeah, I'm surprised somebody lived there. I know I'm thinking some of the realtors, they mentioned it on some of the stuff, but some of the stuff they didn't mention it a lot. So yeah. But back into the story. 13 days later, Candy would turn herself into the police on June 26, 1980. She was arrested and charged with murder, held on a $100,000 bond, and ultimately acquitted in a highly publicized trial. Okay, and that is kind of the story right there of everything that happened, of course, from the trial and the court testimonies and everything that kind of went on. And the lawyer said he did different techniques. He said he was using hypnosis to try to see if he can get answers fully. Of course, as well, was trying to say that his defendant, or the person who was trying to defend, Candy Montgomery was like psychological, had issues or something. There's a lot of different things, of course, but she did not get, of course, charged with the murder, like that murder. It was like similar as self-defense, even though she struck her like 38 times, 41 times with an axe, of course, as well. Now, some people have different opinions on this. It could be one way people think, oh, she was innocent. This right here was Betty went out there and attacked her and caused this. Some people say, well, maybe not. We wasn't there. We don't really know exactly what happened. As you guys know, in the old days, it was easy to get away with crimes. Look at the Zodiac Killer, the Golden State Killer, all those different individuals who was doing serial killings. And you watch those stories and you see those cops, you be like, the cops are foolish. Like that, and detectives are not really detecting like that. Because you would think that Zodiac Killer was a story for a different time. Zodiac Killer was probably a police officer on the force, because the way that things was happening, he was able to depict everything. And who know how to think like criminals than the people that's catching criminals? So shouldn't you have checked your force to see if somebody was on there was the person? That would have been one option. But in this story right here, you see that Candy goes to the house, of course, and Betty, is said to be there, and then she confronts her about the affair, even though they stopped seeing each other like 4 or 5 months ago. Like that. They stopped seeing each other for a while, like they've been months, like this hasn't happened. And Betty knew of the other affairs that her husband had before too as well. So like this affair is happening like that. When he came back to be with his wife fully, it kind of like a little shaky like with the timing like that. She waited this long, even though she was seeing Candy many times because her daughter was going over to the house instead of seeing her many times. So all of a sudden she waited this time to try to do that. So it kind of makes it a little bit shaky, a little bit around the range. So you kind of look at it both ways, and you also look at it, but Betty did have an axe. Well, Candy knows exactly where the axe will be in Betty's house to go get the axe and try to kill Betty, unless she'd been to the house before. They usually have their affairs at a hotel, but who'd say they didn't have their affairs, at the house one time when she'd been to the house enough to see the stuff? You never know. It's a lot of question marks still, of course, in the story. I'm just playing devil advocate a little bit. So let me know what you guys think, of course, about everything, the conversation down below about the story, and do you think about the innocence of Candy, or you think it was kind of like not self-defense, it was a murder? Because Betty did say, I think not Betty, Candy did say before that she couldn't live without Alan. She said, I couldn't live without Alan like that. I feel like I couldn't have life without him like that. She said, she say that often as well. So it makes the story very intriguing, and we've seen a lot of different depictions of it, of course, on shows. I think Elizabeth Olsen played her before. You had all different type of actors and actresses in general, actress, same thing. They play her in different stories and stuff. So yeah, the story will be going on for a long time. You probably see more in the future as well, and more story breakdowns. Some people who think that she did, some people who think that she didn't do it. But it's for the person who's watching to decide. This concludes the episode of the Candy Montgomery story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And let me know down below what you guys think. You think it was self-defense, or you think it was more? Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of NCNO.